So, welcome back to the Human Torus podcast with me, Max Harvey. This is the third or fourth interview now after a long break, and I'm here with my really lovely, good heart friend Margery, who I met in Colombia in person. I was aware of your work before that through the study I'd done with work that you studied and you practice and you teach, which is the Awakening the Illuminated Heart workshop, which is sort of come through Drunvalo Melchizedek. Um, and but we met in Colombia as on an incredible journey, and we were staying with the Arawak and the Kogi tribe, and we were like the fifth tribe of I think it's a 4 yearly gathering between the four tribes up there in Colombia, and it's called the Gathering or the Dawn of a New Tribe of a New Time. I think it was called Our Journey, but that gathering is very special. It's kind of like um, the real United Nations is kind of how it felt, like the kind of the heart, the United Nations of the heart and of the soul of Gaia, of the humans who had done whatever they needed to do to be there and get there in that moment, to join together in a kind of connect in the web of human consciousness from that point, from the heart of the world. Very special. And um, I remember seeing you at the meeting when we all sat in these we sat on these stones, which were like the equivalent of the chairs that you'd see at the United Nations, um, around this huge megalithic, beautiful tree, listening to the Arawaku Mamos talking and the translator and chiming in with our thoughts and feelings, if and when they were appropriate and necessary. And anyway, so that's how I met Margery. And I would like to, um, first of all, I'll say how I first became aware of you was I think you'd stuck out in my memory from, did you do the last Earth Sky Heart workshop with Drunvalo?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yep,
Okay.
I did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which people can watch on Gaia. Um, and this is again, this work is one of those things, a little bit like the I Ching or other works which are far beyond words and the written word. That it's energetic, and this kind of work activates people. It does something to people's DNA, and it will find them, or they will find it at the right time, and or not. It may not be right for some people to to be involved in that work. They may have a different way of awakening and of playing their part in this transformation of consciousness that we're all here alive for right now. But it's very special. It's very, very special work. Um, and it's it's hard to put into words in a way because it's but it kind of I'd like us to. So um, I saw you in that workshop when I was reviewing it online or studying it online back in like 2011, 12. I think, well, maybe it was quite soon after it was recorded.
Earlier than that even, I think.
Okay.
I think because the Earth Sky Heart actually um, was a couple years before Drunvalo started bringing in practitioners, which was like 2011, I believe, is when he started teaching us, I mean,
Right.
the actual workshop. So I think it must have been, and then before that was what they called the advanced workshop, and then Earth Sky Heart. So it must have been 2010 or so, something like that. Yeah, it's been um, an amazingly quick 14 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I relate to, I feel like, I mean, I'm certainly one of the family or over the globe who aligned at that moment in time at the beginning of the School of Remembering, with that school for the
Mhm.
purpose of embodying the work of the school at that point, and kind of light, bringing our light around the planet with it, however we did. Yeah, and there was a lot of getting together in groups and practicing the meditations and sending our love down to the heart of Mother Earth, and connecting with Father Sky, with the sun. And yeah, it was real light work. I mean, there is, I guess, one would have to have done a certain amount of shadow work to be able to be doing this light work at that time.
Yeah.
So for however, so I guess, yeah, I'm curious about your beginnings. Like, how did you first become aware of Drunvalo's work?
Oh, well, before I answer that, I want to just say it's about timing. One of the things that I learned with doing this kind of work is that, you can even have the insight, but you may not feel like you're ready to go there. And so you just kind of put it on a shelf and it's still there.
Mm,
And then when the time comes, then you can come back and take it off the shelf, and integrate it. So I think there was so much work done by so many people before this time that it put all those seeds out.
mm, mm,
And so I first met Drunvalo in 1999, and actually it was one of the focus, one of the one of the foci, anyway, one of the multiple focuses
mm,
that Drunvalo had in that workshop, which was down in West Palm Beach, Florida. Well, actually involved the Koji, because he had just begun working with the Koji, and he had found like a sound, found that they used a sound of vibration, and it greatly empowered them. So he was working with that, and he just found out about the DOS discs, um, and so we was talking about that, and I was there with a small group of women that I'd met when we were living in Key Largo, Florida, and so that was why West Palm was an easy place to get to. And we've lived all over because my husband's a park ranger in the National Park Service, and so he was chief ranger at that time down in Everglades. We were in Key Largo, and so we met, just like things are supposed to happen. I was there for a while and felt, after living out west and totally in nature for like 16 years, and always at elevations higher than 4,700 feet, all of a sudden my elevation is 5.5 feet above sea level, and I knew nobody. And as laid back as Key Largo seems, there's so much traffic going through there that it was really pretty buzzy. So I found this group, and one of them, and I don't remember who, said, "Hey, let's go listen to this man." And um, so we went, and that was the opening. It's like sometimes insight can, like, just kind of blindside you. There's hit you on the side of the head, and you go, "Whoa!" But then sometimes it's like, in choosing to go listen to someone, what you've done is unconsciously given yourself a permission slip to ask questions that you never knew you needed to ask. And that, for me, is what started my journey with Drunvalo and with imagery. I do a lot of imagery online, and have found so many wonderful mentors over the years. Drunvalo's wife, Claudette, is a wonderful imagery teacher using the legacy of the Kabbalah. Catherine Shainberg, whom I've worked with a lot lately, and Daniel Meitel, Jean Houston, Daniel Walsh. I mean, just they're just I can't even think. I can't even think of
About half, did
so
you?
many. We meet these wonderful people, and we sometimes forget what their name was, but we carry what they shared with us. So it transforms us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also you alchemize, learn from them, and remembered from them into your own, with your own unique frequency and your own rich experience, which then you alchemize into something which is a magical new offering for that you can other people can benefit from. The whole universe benefits from it because then we're almost completely aligned with our purpose, and um, it's very special, that alchemy of, as you say, learning from different masters or teachers, people who have been teaching probably for lifetimes, and they're here at this time, and a lot of us are kind of were really ready or have been really ready at certain points. We've done whatever we needed to do within ourselves to get to that point, to then, I guess, and partly it's an emptying. It's like we deprogram ourselves. We find a way of deprogramming what has kind of been imposed from birth, um, as a way of operating in this world, which is very restrictive and controlling and programming. It's not. I don't want to put a negative slant on it because it's just how this world has worked for a long time. But in order to be able to properly embody all this work and then offer something new, we have to have done something before, on ourselves, found a way to prepare ourselves for it. So, yeah, I guess.
This is one of the things that is so important about recognizing that we have the responsibility to follow our joy and follow our curiosity, because everything that we encounter becomes part of our recipe. I'm an artisan baker. I bake high protein, non-gluten stuff at our local farmers market, right? And I keep changing the recipe, and I I I am always amazed when I hear people talking about because of what I do, I'm talking about recipes, and they're very precise. I mean, they measure everything. Everything is just so precise. You should see me bake. I mean, it's like, oh, wait a minute, I don't have enough of well, I'll just add more coconut flour, or those I've got some fresh cranberries. Let's see how they work in this, and it's like it's total. But the reason I'm bringing this up is you said space. We have to make space in our um, in our heart, but in our psyche, to allow new ideas room to metamorphose and synthesize. And that's one of the things that we do with this work, is that we look to see, I mean, all of us, I mean, like I had absolutely wonderful parents. I mean, no parent is perfect, but there was one thing for sure. I knew they always loved me. And didn't mean they weren't going to be critical, but the things that they taught me was from their intention of keeping me safe and keeping all my options open, so I don't close any doors. So, like, for example, we tend to transfer stuff generationally. So I pretty much absorb the things of um, my dad, who's um, older. His dad was born in the U.S., but his older siblings were born in Bavaria, and so there was a culture there, and in that family it was extremely supportive, positive, non-critical, so forth. But I mean, there was definitely a push to action. And with my mom, her background came out of Appalachia. It was English, and it was Scottish, and it was Native American, and it was more agricultural. And her if you have big families and you are a child of the youngest child of the youngest child, you know, her grandfather, my mother was born in 1921. Her grandfather was actually born in 1802. And which is like, you know,
Wow.
but the point of that, saying that, is that I know you're doing the math. I can see it in your head. But you know, sometimes these old guys had more than one wife, and one might be younger, so we end up with, you know, kids being birthed to a 59-year-old man. But anyway, they're the thing was, when our parents teach us the things that we need to know to keep us safe and help us be happy, and make us, I mean, back in the old days, acceptable to society, you know, because reputation was everything. My mom probably was transferring ideas that somebody started transferring into her family 100 years before. So I had some, you know, there was a lot of, we all carry all of this old baggage that is lovingly brought forth from their parents to our parents. And by the way, on the grandfather, I may have missed maybe should have put a great in there to get back to 1804, but they were it was very long lineages of, anyway, but there was all this old stuff, you know, and she was brought up not to question those things, because those were what made, in particular, a female acceptable. So anyway, the thing is, we all have our lovingly given protective baggage. So our parents really try to cocoon us with all these rules, and we have to first we have to see them, and then we have to be ready to release them. And sometimes you can see things you're not really comfortable letting go with, which is why it's really good to keep up the work, because like reading a book, you know, there are some of these wonderful books that are transformative. And when you read, there was one that I've forgotten which one it is, and it doesn't matter, but there was one that I read in like 1975, and then I read it again like '05 or something. And I just pulled it out of the shelf and I started reading it again. I was like, wow, I didn't remember this being in that book. Well, I don't remember it being in the book because I wasn't ready to see it.
That's right.
So, you know, life is like that, you know, and so when we clear out, when we uncocoon ourselves, if you will, then we open more windows. We completely open the windows, you know, and let some of that baggage just fly out. Then all this air starts coming in through the windows, you know, and just like with the phrase, you know, it's like a breath of fresh air. But we have to open our windows to get the fresh air. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful metaphor for it, and the imagery in that, and that reminds me of imagery. I mean, um, I also study with Catherine, so it's so Claudette. I'm interested. So you were first introduced to imagery as a practice through Drunvalo at that meeting.
Right. Well, I had my first Flower of Life class in, I think it was like 2000, 2001 maybe. And from then on, I tried to be involved in everything. And I met imagery because Drunvalo, Claudette Melchizedek started joining Drunvalo for just a little bit of time within his workshops.
Yeah.
And so got to do that. And then they were probably there, but I didn't know about them. I started doing, I did a workshop specifically, I think it was a 4-day workshop with Claudette. I don't know, maybe 2015. And I started working with Catherine Shaneberg a little before that, with meeting wherever she was having her in-person workshops. And but I realized with Claudette's imagery, I could go places that I did not know existed, you know, and in her, we did, you know, group work. like in groups of 6, and there would be imagery going on, but the imagery would be focused on the person in the middle.
Mm.
And I found, I don't know that this happened to everybody in the group, but when that person was seeing their things, I found I could see the very same experience that they were seeing.
Mm. Mhm.
I didn't know that was possible.
Wow.
So, these things open us to possibilities because we've been to keep us safe. Our parents and society, well, our parents try to keep us safe. So they impose all these, they keep closing all these windows like, no, that doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. No, that's your imagination. That can't, that's not right. If you do that, they're going to think you're crazy. Nobody's going to, all that stuff. Nobody's going to like you. Nobody's going to love you. They're going to make fun of you.
Mm.
And heaven forbid, go on the religious route of what that means. And so it's all about opening our windows, opening to the possibilities. And once you start, it's like ripples.
Mm.
You see the possibility here, and it keeps getting, it's like, oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. It's like, I never, I never,
It,
it,
it's
it had never occurred to me.
that the imaginal realm is so transformative when
It
we
is.
bring our conscious awareness to it, and because we get this wash of images and dreams, and coming in and out of our awareness throughout the day, um kind of randomly, and I think everyone's familiar with that. But
Mhm,
to be able to sit down and use these short exercises and work with 100% awareness on with this field of dreams that is constantly, this spring that's always providing us images within ourselves, but we don't work uh unless we, I guess children probably work more um consciously with their images than adults. They don't have as much programming in a way, so that it's like it's their primary, initially their primary source of information from the universe, as well as their parents, as you say, the parents, and then
mhm,
um, and then as we grow up, we kind of get more and more um, kind of engulfed in this physical realm, and how, learning ways of just more layers of programming that we are we take in unconsciously, and we also take them in consciously with the things that
mhm.
we study to do, and the cultural patterns we get involved in, the things we love, the things we don't love, etc. It all builds up. And but as you say, when you start to learn to work with it consciously, um, magical things can happen. We can do anything. I remember Drunvalo describing it in that workshop, in the Earth Sky Heart workshop, and saying that people have regrown limbs using imagery, reversing. I remember him talking about reversing.
Mhm.
That's a way of doing that. Sort of tracking back. It's a very sort of it was one of these things that wasn't spoken about for a long time, because it was a kind of a real way of manifesting that was originally used by the Jewish tribe, the Hebrew, the the original uh, originators of DreamWork, the Kabbalist, the original Kabbalah. Um,
Mhm.
and that was I don't know the precise history of it, but that was a pretty difficult time to be a human back then, and with all of the politics on the planet then, thousands of years ago, I'm talking about. So um, it was kept within their own community, their own tribe. This way of
Right.
working with the subconscious. We have access to it now. We can anyone on the planet can learn this, and manifest anything, heal anything. It's profound. So yeah, it's an amazing thing that
Yes.
you're.
Well, this in particular, um, what well, you were talking about the Jewish doctor who'd lost an arm, and that was Catherine Shaneberg and Claudette Melchizedek's teacher, that Colette Abuker Muscat. And she was originally born in Algeria, but then went to Jerusalem when that was a possibility. And she was, amazing. She worked with that man for I believe it was about 2 years to regrow that limb. But the imagery was carried and nurtured by the females in the tribe, is what I understood, that this was their particular thing that they were working on. And anyway, that's just, but I wish I could have met, just seen Colette. She's certainly amazing. And by the way, those of you who are into reading books, you can read Colette's imagery. I think Jerry Epstein wrote a book. Do you have that one, Max?
I have that. I have not practiced the exercises in that. There's so much. It's such a rich, wonderful body of work. When there's that fellow Jerry Epstein's work.
The Jerry, yeah.
But he has a different kind of way of working with it than Catherine. But it's
they're all different. I mean, there was a different feeling working with Claudette than working with Catherine. Another person that I'm extremely grateful to is Dr. Bonnie Buckner, who, when she was about 3 years old, just had announced to her father, she was growing up on a ranch in Texas, this little girl said, "I want to be a dream opener." Yeah, I mean, so some of these things, some of these insights that people have to come from somewhere else, right? Because why would she know that? Why would she even know that thing? And she went through a lot of different things. She followed her joy, her plans, and she went into production and did all kinds of things in national TV, and then came back and did other things, and then eventually just said, this is what I'm doing. So now she's been for, I don't know how many years, probably 20 anyway, a practitioner of imagery. She's a PhD psychologist. She now has her own institute in France called, I think it's the Institute for Imagery and DreamWork, and the wonderful classes there. But she focuses on DreamWork. But she has a complete, my point, I think, was that she has a completely different style.
Yes.
And she has a different focus because she's holding to her purpose, her initial. She's a practicing therapist, and teacher, but she also holds to her original great love of dream opening. And so that's what she likes to focus on when she's working with people. Write down your dreams. What is it? And then we talk about it, and then she tells, and then she gives, she starts by saying, a secondary dreamer of this dream I see. She asks loads of, Max, you've done that with Catherine, where someone brings a dream to a workshop, and then we listen and we take notes and we look for the patterns, and we say, a secondary dreamer of this dream, and everything is in current, which is another thing about imagery. It's all current. Everything is expressed in the now, because now is the only time you can do anything. The past is a reflection. The future is as much possibility as we let happen. But now, that's imagery, is now. You have to be in it right now. You only see what's happening right now, and it's totally personal. We could have 100 people in the room, and I could lead an imagery exercise, or Catherine, and everybody's going to get something completely different. And if you do the same, exercise tomorrow, there will be a difference there too, because you are a new you, and we're continually a new us. We don't have to accept what we were, because we aren't what we were. I mean, we're a step another step away from that.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
And I find the change, like even you could say, a couple of minutes, if you do one imagery exercise after another, it's such a constant flow of information um, within us, that it kind of does highlight the importance of these subtle energies, because it's all subtle energy, and how,
Hmm.
like in our culture, we are, encouraged into some degree to um, be in a more sort of, rather than the implosive energy, to be more explosive.
Hmm.
Not, I don't mean like exploding, but I mean sort of outward going.
Outward, yes.
So,
Hmm.
um, and of course it's 50-50. The universe is made up of equal parts of both, of growth and the inner, the outer, as without, as above so below, as within so without, etc. And so of course, it's but yeah, the subtle energies, I find, for instance, like I've just had a cup of tea, and I'm finding that pretty, it was a strong one, and I can
Hmm.
really feel that. And because I'm aware of this work, I love this work, and I love to be consciously aware of the information coming from within, and to be also to, because the information from within can kind of perfectly line up with the information outside of ourselves.
It
So
can.
so if we are as in balance as we can be in our bodies, then we are sort of geometrically aligned with the space outside of us as much as we can be. And then there's this, a flow of information that can come a lot more smoothly, and with effortless sort of ease. Um, so that's, yeah. Well, it's just, it can be very fast, as you say. One imagery exercise, you do the same exercise a few minutes later, or the next day, it'll be totally different.
Hmm.
What we receive. But yeah, that was a reflection from me today about the subtle energies, about um, being a bit more yin than the yang that we're kind of encouraged to be so much in this world.
Right. Well, that's what Kabbalah means, receiving. So that's what yin is, right? Is receiving. Isn't that's the taking in?
Of being able to, I'd say, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause if we're in an explosive, a sort of outward, needing to express energy, then we can't really take anything in. So I guess it's the more we are closer to neutral, then we can choose. We have autonomy.
Hmm. And the breath takes us to that. When
Um,
Catherine is.
the we were saying about the subtle energies, and how important it is to be able to still ourselves enough to start to receive the images from within. Um,
Mhm.
and yes, so, and
And that begins. I'm sorry.
carry on. No, yeah,
That that begins with us being ready to at least see it, and know that you can see it with, even if you're not ready to be it. But we have to first be ready to see it, and and know that, for me and many, one of the ways I do is I journal it. Um, because one of the things that well, first, in writing it down, somehow it transfers to I think my different energy bodies in
yeah,
this way, and then I can look back, because sometimes, especially if something is really new ideas, and somehow just really hit me hard, sometimes later on I can't remember.
right,
It's like I was in some other zone. I wasn't in the mental zone, which of course you're not in the mental zone when this happens. And it's like I look in my brain and I can't find this amazing thing. So it really helps when you get something, just write it down. Don't worry, it doesn't have to be pretty. It can be any kind of notebook, just one that you can find easily and keep, writing in.
right.
And And so anyway, I forgot where I was going with that. But I think I was going to say that I mentioned the journaling part because very often, well, I have found in my life that there are really not that many people, first, who are interested, and second, who believe, who in my life, there are not all that many people who are interested in these kind of insights. Not everybody. I mean, the person you go and you just love to laugh at with coffee may not be the same person who's going to sit quietly while you tell them this extremely personal experience. The thing is, it is personal, it's immersive. You're completely in it. And trying to put words on something that is that, I want to say explosive, but expansive, something that you felt, some of these experiences almost defy words, because words are like little corrals that we put ideas in, and they mean something different to somebody else. I'm sure you guys have all seen a conversation going on where person number one is saying something, and you have two people on over here that they're talking to, and you know that this person believes exactly the opposite of what this person believes, and they both think that person number one is agreeing with them. Because we hear words differently. We hear what we're expecting, and we also hear what we can understand. And so journaling is really a good way to put down that thing that you experience that you've never experienced before, and kind of wrestle with your words. And it's okay to sometimes write the words, a bunch of words that kind of go with it, without putting it out there where people are going to say, no, I don't think so. No, that's not, this isn't, we have to, so much of our life, we have to put this appropriate face forward so that people around us are comfortable with what we're doing and saying, that we tone it down, or we change it a little bit, or we just change it because we think that somebody won't understand it. It can be a good thing, but I have heard from some people in workshops that if they try to explain for somebody they care about, like their sister or their best friend, that somehow the thing that big thing that they realized becomes less real to them, because they start seeing it through the eyes of somebody who didn't experience it.
Absolutely.
And
yeah
so journaling is a wonderful thing to do that. And you can't do any of this without breathing. I mean, that's one of the ways that Catherine starts us with all of our work. We're breathing out, getting the good posture and breathing naturally, and then breathing out to the numbers, and then she'll say, and as your breath returns to normal, everything that was not in order tends to return to order.
Absolutely.
And that may not be an exact quote, but it's pretty close. And it's and that's something that's so easy that we can all do, just like on the fly. Most meditations and such you can't do when you're driving, but you can just, focus on your breath and feeling the breath come in your nose and go all the way down below your belly button and coming back out, and just even paying attention to that can change our perception. It like opens our windows a little wider. Yeah.
Absolutely. And also, when you've done that enough with any other practice as well, you can then you just use intention. It's almost a reminder that we can just use intention, and we can get there just like that.
We can.
Yeah. Wherever we want to
bring,
in the universe.
Bring the energy in and push the unneeded energy out. I mean, just like, that's it, boom.
Sometimes the body does need a few breaths to settle, but sometimes intention, we can just be there straight away with intention. If we know wherever that location is, let's say the heart, or um, that place, once you've got to when Catherine takes us through three to and see the number one, tall, clear, and bright, and the alternative is to breathe out a white mist as you're breathing,
Missed.
and this just has an effect of relaxing the whole being and sort of and making the dimensions permeable in a way. It's sort of like you sort of have access to all space and time. You know, that's the kind of what you can feel. That's part of the intention behind it.
It is, and you brought up another good point, that imagery works out of time. That's why we can do things so fast. You
Yeah.
know, we tend to see a plan. This is what we want, and like the steps. And it's good to plan too. There's nothing wrong with planning. But
Yeah.
it's like 1, 2, 3. It's like I've forgotten who's was it. Maybe Claudette that calls it that way. It's horizontal, or it might have been Daniel Mattel. But it's, you know, this is generally we work in a horizontal world where you do this and you do this and you do this because you're going there, boom, 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 and it requires a certain amount of time. It's like, you know, driving from London to Devon. It's like there's a certain amount of time that it takes to do this, or a certain number of processes, turnings, pauses, and so forth. But imagery works in no time, so
Yeah.
you can be here and then you're there.
Yes. Vertical.
It's,
Vertical.
it's vertical.
Yes.
Yeah, it's vertical rather than horizontal. So we do in imagery, you're actually doing things in no time,
Right.
outside of time, or
Outside.
inside of time. I don't know whichever the right phrase would be.
which is which is the tiny space of the heart. It's the tiny space. It's the location of where the only location in the universe where there is no duality, there is no polarity, as you know so well because you teach that workshop, and it's
Mhm.
and really it's that space. It's aligning with that space when we suddenly have access to, you know, images and insights and feelings and sort of dimensions that when we are more lodged in our logical brain, we just don't have access to, because it's they're two different ways of seeing the reality. Um,
We are.
and
And
I
one,
sorry, yeah.
you go.
No, well, I was going to say, I heard another ATIH teacher describe this actually just last night. Um, uh, she posted a description of the difference between the two, of seeing through the logical sort of the brain, which is a polarized instrument, and seeing, and then but just the intention of using of driving our lives with our from our heart, and using the brain as a tool, so the brain will serve the mind, will serve the heart, you know, at our, you know, when we choose and how we choose.
Mhm.
um in general, we're not brought up this way in the West, and so it takes whatever it takes for us to sort of remember and start to sort of rewire that. And there, I do think that we can do that without teachings. You know, there are people that
Oh
will
yeah.
you know, and people who have uh, just you see, there is this side to it where the world that you and I have grown up in, a lot of us who have actually kind of found a way, found our way here to what we're talking about through different forms of adversity, and those different forms of adversity we have utilized those to kind of dissolve some of our programming, because we've had to dig
Mhm.
deep within ourselves to find a way through them. And that place within that we, you know, that we have to access the universe within ourselves, because, and this is just describing the way where we may not be utilizing outside teachings. You know, it's a legitimate path that is maybe not spoken about as much. Maybe the indigenous could, you know, would speak more about that.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
uh,
think definitely. The indigenous believe, um, those that are still living within their cultural group, not dispersed in out in the world anyway. They support individual knowledge, individual insight, and it's shared as a good thing, rather than, you're that's weird or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You were receiving then, and I just interrupted you. Sorry.
No, it was something, but that's no go.
Okay. So,
It
well,
blew.
I'd just like to ask you about, you do give ATIH workshops still?
I do,
Yeah.
and I think um, we can do it on Zoom, which is when we first started doing Zoom, I thought this energy work is not. I just don't see how this is going to work. It's going to turn into a mental process or something. I didn't know how the energy would flow. And then, but as you know, it's like now when we do imagery or we do ATIH online, if nothing else, the energy is bigger
Yeah.
because everybody's in their own comfortable space. Everybody's sitting, they're they're well, they're comfortable. They're in their safe space. They're in their own place. If they need to, we don't have to spend as much time doing things like, eating and bio breaks or anything because everybody's got they're right there in their house.
Mm,
But they're safe and it's quieter, and they're sometimes people can be distracted by other people, little noises or whatever. But I found that the energy just builds. And then, after as, as you know, Max, after I thought about this, I thought, well, you know, duh, energy is not physical. It doesn't matter if we're 10,000 miles apart.
right. Yeah.
It's energy.
Yeah.
It just like energy operates in basically no time.
Exactly.
So, all those things work really well. But I am going to start doing ATIH um, in a location a little bit south of St. Louis, Missouri,
Cool.
in a couple of months. Yeah. Uh, so that will be easy. And if people wanted to, there'll be, they could come in from close by, or they could fly into St. Louis and, take the shuttle down or whatever. It'd be easy peasy. But was able to do an in-person one on near Lake Huron, which I 3 months ago, which was so cool because we've traveled a lot, but I've been to all kind of around the edges of all the Great Lakes, but I had never been to Huron. So I got to meditate on the side of Lake Huron at Saginaw Bay, and it was absolutely magical. The whole class was magical for me, and it worked beautifully. But that area is so beautiful. It's there must have been, well, tens of thousands of red-winged blackbirds in the marshes along Saginaw Bay. And do you know that what that bird has a beautiful, I wish I could do bird sounds, but it has kind of a ooh, and it was just there so many of them. They were, oh, it was so beautiful. So I am doing external locations again. Um, I'm doing a lot of imagery
Yes.
work. I'm doing classes through organized with the School of the Heart. And at this point, if people are interested, contact me and we'll see if we can organize things, because we renew the self by cleaning the past. We bring increased emotional clarity through healing, and it's 2 days of imagery. Or we can, if you prefer, we can do something where it's very easy to do, like 1 week or four nights of just 2.5 hours every evening. And people seem to say they actually end up with more energy, at the end of the day. If we do this after supper time, they actually end up with more energy at the end than they did before, because relaxed and detoxified and cleaned out and stuff.
Yeah,
So there's that stuff, and that's fun. And imagery is my very favorite thing. It makes my heart sing.
you're right.
Not quite as much as my grandkids, of whom I now have 5. Um, that and as I told Claudette one time, she said, "What's your perfect place?" And I said, "Well, it would be laying on the grass with a litter of puppies crawling over me." And
That's a good image. Yeah, that's a good one.
oh, I just,
You have the access to that. Anytime things get tricky in this matrix, you can bring up that image and
yeah,
wow.
yeah. It's
I
like
feel
that
like
was I helped finance my second grad school adventure. Um, my second master's was in earth sciences, and we were out west. I was going to Northern Arizona University, and we had these beautiful shelties, which I got for the kids, but they had puppies. And so anyway, the Goldies 3 litters of puppies financed most of my grad school, my last third of grad school. But so I got to lay on the grass near ancient ruin sites, which were right outside the house, under a litter of puppies. So,
and when was this? What
when? Or
when was this
this would have
after
been,
you had the image, or was this an image that you recall
no,
as
this is something that I actually recall.
okay.
Yeah, Goldies, the puppies, the puppies happened when we were living in northwestern New Mexico, and let's see, it would have been like 1991 and 92. We had lots of puppies, and
So this is from this is something you recall as a particularly like magical special moment and feeling. Yeah.
there's nothing like puppies. Nothing like puppies.
No, it's yeah, they are very special. I have a similar memory of when I was a child, similar thing. It's just like, yeah, it's a very special. They're so enthusiastic. They're so just grabbing life. They're just like they're just playing and yeah, exuberance and
Yeah, and they expect nothing from you except to be there.
right.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah, just pure life force,
Just pure life.
joy
Just
of
be
life.
there.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, it's profound. Yeah, when you find an image or a feeling. That reminds me of actually when I was younger and I used to do imagery without knowing what it was, kind of thing. I used to
Mm.
recall something that made me feel really good, something that, special memory, special, and when you do that a certain amount of times, you grow your imagination, the muscle, you grow your imagination muscle. It's like or you rekindle your kind of connection with the dream world, and that can go in and out of phase though, depending on what we do in our lives. Like some people will get really busy and their mind will become their main way of interacting with the world, and that may take them away a bit. Like reminds me of Peter Pan, the story of Peter Pan,
Mhm.
which is what Drunvalo described about Neverland. He was saying that, this is a real metaphor for life. We have access to that whenever we want. We can, it's in us. We are that person. We are Peter Pan. We are that imagination. We have that within us all the time.
We do.
And I think a lot of people actually do utilize it, but they don't necessarily talk about it. They don't, people who are sort of living in conventional jobs, operating, looking normal in the world, but they will be having this incredible imaginary experience as they go about their daily, like when they're driving or when they're doing things that people may have no idea what's going on inside them. But yeah, my dad was like that because he was an illustrator. He was an artist. So anyway,
Oh,
um,
he was.
yeah,
So
and
your talent, did he draw with you when you were young? Because your art is incredible.
thank you, Margery. Well, I mean, to a certain extent, it's in the DNA. I think just like all of us, we have, as you were mentioning about our parents' programming, I guess it goes back a few generations, and so there are artists in my family that go back, people that did things with their hands, and furniture makers, artists, paint, it's definitely in the DNA. But I do feel that we choose when we incarnate. I almost have like a memory of choosing, and that sounds a bit far-fetched, but it is a feeling. It's like a strong feeling, almost like like knowing it's all there before we get here. When we have a main skill, a main ability, that
Mhm.
we display when we're very young, it's probably
Yeah.
been there from a previous incarnation, you know. I would say almost certainly. Yeah.
Well, either that or we just choose the blueprint. But I mean,
Right.
but I think we definitely come in with particular gifts and um, that we're supposed to bring forward. We come in with this like package in our heart, and so it's like we're going to bring it to the world, and partly, some people are not in a situation where they can have the freedom to maybe do exactly what they came in to do. But that we, I do believe, I use the word far-fetched. I do believe I think we reincarnate into, I think that we can reincarnate into our own family line.
Yes, for sure.
Further, but, and I think, I believe I think a lot of people, a lot of souls choose their parents specifically.
Yes.
So, I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like I chose the situation that I came into.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. I would say a lot of people alive right now, especially those doing the type of work that you're doing, that we're both doing, and that it just makes a lot of sense, even in many ways. I mean, it's again, this is as you were talking about, sort of imagery. This is something that can't be fact checked or kind of verified through logic. This is something that we can only feel for ourselves, isn't it?
it is, and that's all that's needed.
Right.
That's it. And thinking of something that occurred to me before that I wanted to say was that Drunvalo said that none of us need any classes anymore. We
Yes.
don't need them.
Yeah.
We've got everything we need inside us already. It's
Right.
just that when we go to the classes, we meet others,
Exactly.
related souls. We find we may, in my opinion, it helps. For me, it helps speed up me asking the right question.
Yeah.
Where, not that it's all here, but it's very helpful and extremely pleasing to me to go out and interact and have those questions just kind of pop in a lot easier, a lot faster,
Yeah.
and in relation to other people, and all this fluidity. I love it.
It's very special. The work we do in groups, and you're facilitating, which is you're doing what you came here to do. Clearly,
I
to me.
think so.
Yeah.
Finally, I mean, it's like I'm old. It's like,
You're so
finally, I
useful.
give in. I give in. I
Uh,
believe I can do it.
and then the universe goes, whoop, there you go.
Whoop, here you go. Here's your platform. Here's how you, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it takes whatever it takes, I guess. And a lot of it is surrender. A lot of it is, I mean, most of it
It
is.
is.
Most of it, yeah.
Yeah.
If not
Because
all.
what we're surrendering is our old um safety nets, I think. The old safety nets that are nets. I mean, a safety net obviously holds things in as much as it holds something out, so
Yeah.
it's like we're expanding our um we're just expanding, just straight out expanding, yeah.
Yeah.
Expanding the things that we we can know and the things that we can not know. I've got something I want to show you.
Please, yeah.
I don't know if you can see over here. Okay, those are some Zuni finishes. You know, I had a store selling authentic Native American things for years.
Yes.
Oh, I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna grab one.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay. This is the Zunis. You know, you think of Native people, you think of beadwork. You think, uh, you know, beadwork. The northern tribes. You know, the Iroquois, the Greek are wonderful beaders. The Sioux people, Kachinas, Hopi. Well,
Mm,
Zuni people are known and hundreds of years ago were trading fetishes. I don't know if you can see this guy. Can you see this? This is a mole,
yeah.
and he's got. I'll
What's the
turn him
name?
upside down. You can kind of. He's carved out of jet, which is fossil charcoal,
Oh,
and
wow.
this is a hunting bundle on top of him.
Beautiful.
And
Cool.
some Zuni finishes will have just plain. Okay, for example, here's a sea turtle. Okay, he has no hunting bundle,
Did you carve that?
but no, these are Zuni.
Zuni, sorry.
Zuni, yeah. Zuni is a pueblo that's in on the Arizona-New Mexico border. It's the closest pueblo to the Hopi. And where we used to live, where I laid and puppies rolled over me, we
Ah,
had all ancient Zuni um, ruins to the, I guess, well, three directions. I kind of figured that's one of the reasons that my son is who he is, because he played in these ruin sites. And I used to meditate in the old ruin sites, which is perfectly okay to do.
mm,
I wasn't disturbing anything. But anyway, back to mole. Mole, different people have different ideas. Okay, for Siouan people, mole is not a good thing because he's bringing up like grave dirt. Okay, like like you need to dig a grave. So all this is not different communities will have different symbolism with the animals. But this one, mole, for Zuni people, mole in his digging brings up the questions that needs to be asked.
mm,
So mole would be having a mole fetish would be like basically asking for what you need, what you need to work on, what you need to ask, what you need to see.
mm.
Um, anyway, this guy's got some helpers. He's got a cougar, a bear, an eagle, a badger, and a coyote, I think.
It's
You've
beautiful.
got the bottom of the, yeah, that's wolf.
It's quite
Can't
playful as
really see
well.
badger.
It's
Yeah, the
it's
eagle.
playful because it's essentially shadow work. What it's kind of saying that you gotta, that's a part of the picture.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. It's things that are buried that
right,
need to come up to the sunshine.
right, right. Yeah, it's an indigenous way of an ancient way of working with that.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the Zuni people also carve kachinas. But they primarily, use them to teach the kids because there's a cycle of 12. You know, boys are taken into the kivas when they are 11,
Mm,
and they're assigned this is going to be where they are for their whole being, and there's a whole sequence of a dance cycle of the year that's kind of focuses on a particular teaching, and they use these things to teach the qualities, a physical thing that can they can say this kachina does this, and or this animal
mm.
does this, or encourages and strengthens the possibility of this happening.
Yeah. It's interesting because the indigenous ways are so sort of it's like incremental that for generations and generations they've had these practices, these playful almost like storytelling, and how stories,
Yes.
it is storytelling, right? And because stories are holographic. You know, if someone tells you a good story, you experience it. Your senses get involved, and your imagination, of course, as we were talking about. Stories are prime way of nourishing the imagination and learning through the imagination. um, Not just through our imagination, but we can then we are coupling with the imagination of our ancestors. You know, if these are stories that go back a long way. You know,
Mhm.
so that
Yeah,
when
and stories
I was just saying that they're
I didn't
incremental.
mean to.
It's okay. They're incremental compared to us in the Western world now. Let's say us who we we get involved with consciousness work, like you were saying. The last 14 years have gone like that, you know. And for us to, that's quite amazing, you know. All, whatever it is, 144,000 of us, or whatever the number is, the rough number on the planet, you know. We're like a light, we're a network of beings who have done a certain type of work in a time frame that is a nanosecond in universal time, if there is no time in the universe. But yeah. And because we haven't had much time, and so we've had to bring all of our past and future life experience into this now, as you talk about the now. And you say that on your website. It's in it, this is beautiful. Your website's beautiful. It's really, um um crystallizes everything really well that you have embodied and that you offer others. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I wanted to ask about your heart imagery, because you studied and you learned and practiced, and you're now a practitioner. You have been for many years of Daniel Mittel's school, the School of the Heart.
Yes,
Yeah.
the School of the Heart. Yeah, yeah, and there's um, well, a number of courses that are there's 5 of them that involve imagery, heart imagery, and then well, he has several others too. But then the ones that I teach, I have 5 imagery classes, sequences that can be done either in 2-hour segments over a week or in a weekend, and they work very well on Zoom. And then I teach the Kriya Yoga First Initiation, which is a very nice one too. It's very useful because it's, again, it it stands alone, but yet it's also movement, and although not as much movement as one might think. It's not like what you think of as yoga. It's Kriya Yoga is movement with using the breath, and the breath is like Kathleen Schengberg says, it's like once the breath returns to normal, things that are out of order tend to return into order. So Kriya goes with that, and it allows us to also assess what's going on in certain parts of our body, um, ways to strengthen parts of our body, because some people have a weak place. They even if it's not a disease, it's like you have a little difficulty with kidneys or with joints or with digestive issues or something like that. And in Kriya, we can kind of work on that. But we can do that in imagery too. There is uh, one of the exercises that I absolutely love. It nourishes all the organs, and we can just do it every day. It's easy peasy, and it's a good way actually to go to sleep.
Right.
It relaxes things. Yeah.
Have you practiced reversing the the rever
Yes,
yes. This is
I
fascinating.
do reverse, yes.
Reverse.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Should we talk about it?
we should, I guess,
Or
we have 3 minutes left of
do you reverse every night?
well, when I so here I am. So I'm here, staying away from my home. I'll be moving from my current flat soon. It's so distracting, the amount of sound at my place, that I have to put earplugs in at the moment to do my reversing. So yeah, so it's fine. I mean, this is just part of the practical Actually, yeah, that's my personal sort of something that I'm getting on top of on in this life is just the very basic practical things. You know, I've gone, a lot of us have gone very far with the consciousness work, but the practical stuff, the earth, physical, practical stuff, I'm actually catching back up on a lot of that stuff. So anyway, but reversing, yeah, I do. I would like to do it regularly. I don't do it as regularly as I'd like to. It feels a little bit too broken at the moment in terms of I'm not doing it every night. When I put my head on the pillow, reviewing um, all the events of the day, and then um, I mean I do it a certain extent every night, but I usually fall asleep before I've corrected anything or changed anything. Um,
That's okay though.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
okay.
it's okay.
Yeah,
It's
it's
okay.
okay. It's the general way of reversing is to do it after you lie down to go, to sleep,
Yeah.
and of course step back so you are watching it as though you are in the video, but you're actually watching the video, so you're detached.
Mm.
But I heard of, as you know, I heard of a group in Australia that kept falling asleep. And so what they did as a group, there was, I guess, a group in the same workplace. They started taking time during their lunchtime to reverse, and they would reverse lunch to getting up. And that was their solution. At night, they only had to go from whatever it was, bedtime, back to lunch, and they could make it through that way.
Very
So
small.
it's it doesn't have to be all at once, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yes. Sorry to interrupt. I mean, I do find
it's
myself.
okay.
I was just going to say, I do find myself doing it in the day, as we were talking earlier about you just doing this work intuitively, on the move or going somewhere with intention straight away. You can do that with if you get a moment during the day, you know, you may need to something happened a few hours ago and it doesn't feel resolved. You can go back to that situation in your imagination, in your experience, and correct it, and then come back to where you are, kind of thing.
Mhm. But there's some of these exercises that are so easy to do in just even if you're in a public workplace, if you can just go to the toilet for 2 minutes,
Yeah.
you can go back and just so that you know that you're not going to be interrupted. Just go and close the door and
Margery, yeah, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about
just sense.
that you're offering to people at the moment?
Well,
Amazing time.
well, the only thing is I am beginning to work with others as a group of 3 to go into businesses to reduce stress, increase clarity, help people see who they are now so that they can be of great, so they have greater happiness in their own lives and can enrich their relationships and themselves, and also in a business sense to increase their creativity and take the level of drama down out of the workplace. So that's a new thing, and that's one of the reasons I'm going to be in Kirby Lonsdale next week. Is we've been working together. I'm a certified business coach now, and I'm working with a group of other certified business coaches in this herd space, doing herd work with the group of 20 of us, and we're going to be grouping together so that businesses can look and see who is there, and if they want us individually, that's great, via Zoom, or if they want us in a group of 3 so that we can work together on a weekly basis for say 12 weeks at a time. So I am doing that. The only other thing I want to add, and this is something that is a separate thing, and I usually bring up if you know me, is that to me, this is a basket from the people the indigenous who live near Phoenix, Arizona, the Tohono O'odham, people used to call them Papago, but they call themselves the Tohono O'odham, which basically means the people. And this is made out of yucca fiber, dark yucca fiber and light. And this is something that you will see from time to time carved into workspaces on rock faces in the Southwest. And it's referred to as a man in the maze, but quite frankly, it's the human being, it's the being in the maze. And the idea is that we all come in from the one source, which you see right there in the middle, and we come to walk our path and to go back to the one source. And we tend to have a plan on exactly how we're going to do that. So this is a basket. There's several different specific interpretations to it, but basically it's the walk of life, the walk of coming in, walking the maze. And the idea, at least the way I interpret it, is that we all come in from the one source to walk what we think of is our path, the way our path looks to us when we're 20, when we're 30, when we're 40, and we walk that. But the universe knows us a little bit better than we remember ourselves sometimes. So the universe keeps adjusting the maze so that we walk all the paths that we're supposed to. So we're thinking, oh, we'll just go here. But the universe says, no, I think you're going to go around here and you're going to walk there. And then you're going to walk over here and you walk over here. And then you're going to come back to the one source. And so this is one of my special things that I saved from the business. This is the man in the maze. And it's the logo for my business. You may have noticed it on the website up in the left corner.
That's beautiful.
So, but this one.
It's beautiful.
That's the only other thing that I wanted to say.
It was like a transmission, Margery. That was like a transmission, an energetic transmission, the way you described it, the focus and the energy. Yeah, really beautiful. That's a really potent message. So
Well,
do you sell those on your website?
Well, it's made of no, I don't.
Okay.
I sell earrings that are this, it was a template, which I can't get anymore because it was a Navajo cast of sterling silver man in the maze. So I have the earrings, or they can be made into a pendant, and they're about the size of I don't know. If you, I don't know if you know the brand chapstick, but they're about the size of the chapstick top
Okay.
of the lip balm. They're about that big, and they're sterling silver. And I have just a few because the business closed during COVID. The COVID hit the Navajo Nation pretty hard. So, but I have a few of those that can be pendants or earrings. So that's the only way I sell them. But it's a wonderful and I think to me it's this is us.
Yeah, it's a
And
really
the fact that it's handmade, that it exists, that you can find it on places on the cliff rock faces that are hundreds of years old, and in basket. I weave baskets too, and there's no way that you can't transfer energy from the maker to the basket when you're doing that kind of thing.
Yes, it's a little bit like the mochilas that we
Max, I've loved this.
Yeah, it's been great fun. Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The mochilas.
Yes.
I remember you acquired some particularly ones. Yeah. In Colombia.
I did. I've got them in the closet. I gave some to my daughter and my granddaughter and stuff, but I have several lovely bags, and is that what you call the gourd with that the mamos were always with the shells in it? They were doing that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Do you remember what was that called?
it's called the gourd, the Poporo.
Is that the Machilla?
Poporo.
Pupuro. I ended up with a Pupuro too. I thought, well, this is meant for someone. And I kept looking at it and I kept looking at it. And on the last day before we left, it was still there. So I
Perfect.
brought home a Pupuro. I don't know why, what I'm supposed to do with it, but I did. Because I thought, well, that's, something for someone else. But then it kept drawing my attention and it kept staying there and it was time to leave. So I took it with me.
Well,
But
that's
the
perfect.
weaving is wonderful.
Yes,
The weaving is wonderful. I hope we get to go back soon.
me too. Yeah. I mean, I have a feeling that it may be soon. Actually, the potential. Yeah. I, um,
I hope so. I hope they're doing well,
yes.
our friends.
Yes. Most
I've
importantly,
not heard much
yes. There is quite
from
a
them. Yeah.
there is a bit of a delay. So should we wrap up for now?
I guess we will. It's going to be difficult to use, isn't it? So yes, but Max, thank you. Thank you for doing this. I have I have loved it. I'd love to just hang out sometime and just, you know,
Yes.
and you, my friend.
Let's hang out again when the internet connection's a little bit stronger.
Let's do. And yes. And you should come to Bainbridge Island April 14, 15, and 16 and be with us on Bainbridge Island, which is just a island off Seattle. Catherine will be there.
Ooh. Okay, I'll look into it. Definitely. I'll I'll align. I will align.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You will align. She's got it offered. Usually we just like tell Daryl Cooley that we're coming and we pay when we get there, but she's got it on her website this time. So go into School of Images and it'll be there. And she's got private sessions. So you'll be able to do private sessions in person the day before if you want to. So I hope to see you there.
Okay. Well, let's watch this space. I mean, we'll see what happens. Okay. Lots of love.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.